Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Reporter's Notebook. Today, I am joined by fellow digital reporter, Miss Emily. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's so warm out today. I'm so happy, but it's also weird because it's supposed to be winter, so I'm confused, but I'm having a good day.
You know what? I'm not complaining either.
I'm not complaining though.
But so I invited you on this episode of Reporter's Notebook because we recorded an episode of our podcast. This is podcast number 21, I believe.
No, yep.
This is that's 21 weeks straight of podcast. I'm pretty proud of us.
We're doing it. We're doing the thing.
And it's been so incredibly eye-opening, really, to kind of have this opportunity to talk to professors and experts and kind of be in school again. It's like we're taking a political class.
I know. I
each
love
week.
it.
I love it too. I don't know. I don't know if anyone was expecting this to really be like a political class, but that's what I consider our podcast.
No, it's great because each time I feel like, because I was a political science major, but each topic we do, I kind of get to refresh myself a little bit on some of the topics and nuances and things like that. And, we end up learning something each time. And it's just so interesting because obviously, we started this because we both just have an interest in politics. So definitely feeding our interests.
That's for sure. And so what was today's topic, and can you tell us who our guest was for today?
Definitely. So our guest for today was Dr. Clay Calvert, and he is a professor at the University of Florida. He's an expert in First Amendment law, and as many of you know, today is the second impeachment trial for former President Donald Trump. He was impeached in the House on January 13th. Now the trial's moved into the Senate to try to bring about those charges of incitement. So, this trial is going to last for a few days. It's not just a one and done kind of deal. So we really wanted to dive into First Amendment rights because, the whole defense is that the former president was in fact exercising his First Amendment right in that speech, in those tweets, that were before the insurrection on January 6th at the Capitol. So that's his defense. But we really, wanted to dive into what really are those protections under the First Amendment. What really is protected? What speech is protected under the First Amendment? So we really got to dive into that, different aspects of the First Amendment. So it was a really, really fascinating conversation for sure.
Right, yeah. And so I think one of the things that I took away from today's conversation was the fact that in a criminal case, the president's defense team would have a very, very strong argument. But because he is an elected official, not a private citizen, and because he is in a position that is powerful, that his words can be a form of misconduct. And so that's really, if this was a criminal case and he was exercising his First Amendment right, if that was one of the arguments, then a lot of experts are saying like that would be a very, very strong argument, that there are legal precedents to help him with that argument. But because this is a Senate trial, an impeachment trial, which is different than a criminal and a civil case, then there are different standards.
Yeah.
And so we kind of dug a little bit more into that. And then we also talked about how tech companies, their role in First Amendment rights, when someone says something on a social media platform and then they get deplatformed or they get banned or they get suspended, and we talk about how that may or may not be an infringement of those First Amendment rights. And that was one of the parts of the conversation that fascinates me because of how big social media is. And there's conversations coming up now about how these social media companies should be regulated. Should they be regulated like regular under the FCC, where we're kind of under certain guidelines and restrictions as broadcasters, and whether or not social media companies should be held to those same standards. What did you think about that part of the conversation?
Yeah, I agree with you. That part was really interesting because essentially kind of what it came down to is, when you sign up, when you made this point and, our special guest confirmed that for us, that when you sign up for these social media accounts, you're kind of giving up your rights in a sense, because it's not the same protections. It's not the same guidelines because, these social media companies are privately owned. So they have their own board of ethics. They have their own guidelines and restrictions that they put on their own platform. So you're kind of, giving up your rights in a sense. I don't know. It was just really interesting to really think about it that way. Because I don't know how many social media accounts I have, but it's more than, like 10 or something like that. So to think that, wow, every single time you sign up, you're really kind of giving away your free speech rights is really interesting. So
yeah, and we go a little bit more about that in our podcast, and it's definitely something that I think we're going to be exploring with our podcast about how tech companies are being regulated. There are certain parts of agencies, federal agencies that we can definitely explore when it comes to First Amendment, when it comes to regulation, when it comes to these tech companies, because there can be an argument made that tech companies could have just as much power and influence as governments.
Yeah.
There could be that argument made, and that's something that I think we should really explore in our podcast. And it's just something that has been evident because everyone's kind of like, because of the pandemic, we're all quarantined. And so when we're quarantined, we tend to go towards social media to find that human connection. And there's so many different platforms being made available. I think I signed up for, or I was invited to join Clubhouse. So it's like all these different and I think, because I'm from Dallas, so I know this. Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban is also trying to start his own, platform, social media platform. There's rumors that former President Donald Trump was going to start his own social media platform. So I mean, it's just like there's with all these social media platforms popping up, do we need to do more? Does the government need to do more to regulate it as if it were a standard publication or broadcasting? So that's something we might be getting into pretty soon. So
stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. Emily, do you have anything else to say about our podcast or about what we're doing with topics that we're searching for?
I mean, check out our podcast, watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Check it out, listen in. It's a great, podcasts are just one of those awesome things, I think, where it's really one of those things where you can just go home at the end of your day, pop in your headphones, listen to a podcast on so many different topics while you're relaxing on the couch, decompressing for the day. It's just one of those things where, you're kind of part of a conversation, but you're getting to listen to people, talk about topics of interest and things they're passionate about. So I think it's just a fun thing we get to do. And I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are enjoying doing it for you guys. So again, we say it all the time, but, give us as much feedback as you can. We love to hear your comments. We'd love to hear what topics you want to hear, what guests you would love to hear from, all that good stuff. So please feel free to reach out to me and Victoria through our email, through our social media accounts. We are, doing this for you guys. So please reach out.
Yes. All right, Emily, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Reporter's Notebook. We just finished talking to our guest for today's episode, so I know we need to go off and edit that so we can, turn that around real quick for everyone. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining us. And then, of course, thank you to the audience, to the listeners, to the viewers, to everyone who stays up to date on what the politics and what we do here at WNCT. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. All right, bye.